Welcome back, guys. Today we'll be talking about Barcelona. I really loved our time here. Barcelona was the last stop of our celebrity cruise itinerary, and we decided to ultimately stay here for 3 days before flying home. And I wanted to walk you through what we did for pickup at the cruise terminal, things like where we stayed, places you might want to eat, local wine that was very good. We went to the aquarium, and then there's some other places, the Modernista de San Paul, Poble Espanyol, a cool place down by the marina, Time Out Market, Sagrada Família, that if you're not familiar with, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned and see that. And then also we'll talk about the hop on, hop off bus that was, crucial in us getting around very easy. So we scheduled a pickup at the cruise terminal through Welcome Pickups. You can think of this as something similar to an Uber. And this just made it really easy and let us avoid having to get in the taxi line that was just very long. One thing I was surprised when we were there was that we didn't have to go through any customs area at the cruise terminal after disembarking the ship. But after looking, I guess it makes sense. Our cruise began in Rome and stayed within Europe. So keep that in mind when thinking about transportation and pickup times if you're going to go ahead and schedule that. Just know that, likely then you won't have to go through any through customs area. During our time there, we stayed in the Gothic Quarter, and this is the historic center of Barcelona. There's going to be plenty of restaurants with beautiful seating areas outside. I love the area, and compared to our time in Rome at the start of our trip, Barcelona is designed for easily walking everywhere. The streets are very wide, and there was a lot of thought for people on whether you're on bikes or on foot, as compared to Rome and many parts of Italy we visited when we started our trip. And then the Gothic Quarter is known for its variety of architectural styles. Lots of neat and interesting architecture, as you walk the streets in that area. Okay, so most of the food we had in Barcelona was just fantastic. For breakfast, we tried novella and la malcriada. Something to also consider is that most of these places don't open until maybe 9:30, if I recall. They might be open a little earlier for beverages, coffees, but for food-wise, they don't open till about that time. So if you think you're going to wake up early and start your day off with some breakfast before going exploring, maybe you can still start your exploring, and then you can find a nice spot to eat a little bit later in the day. This is also a good time to point out the city is very quiet before 10 a.m. In the afternoon, we visited the Time Out Market a couple times, and the Time Out Market is down by the marina and aquarium. This is going to be a great spot that offers many different options, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in more detail later. And then for dinner, we tried estruch. This is right across from the Cathedral of Barcelona. Here we ordered some tapas, which some of those were a mini burger, meatballs, some mussels, and then separate from that, I also ordered a plate of steak frites. All very good. And then the second night we had Luigi. This included beef carpaccio and fabulous risotto. It was just so good. So I would really suggest definitely make a reservation at Luigi. And then as far as meal-wise, on the last night, we joined a couple we met on the cruise and we ate at Can Placa. This place was, comparatively to the rest, were very expensive for the quality we received. Here we started off with a calamari. Looked and tasted pretty pathetic, as you can see right here. The fish that the table ordered, it was so thin that I don't care if you're the best chef, you probably would have messed that up cooking it. And then the short rib I had was just it was just awful in the taste and then how it was presented. So just not great. Yeah, it was a bummer. We ended our trip with that meal. It was great getting to spend time with some new friends, but after the caliber of meals that we had been having to that point, it was just a big letdown in the quality that we got for that final dinner at Can Placa. So our first night, we were walking around and exploring, and we happened to stumble upon a local wine shop, Taps Vinoteca. And we looked for a little bit, and we finally, decided to ask for the recommendations. And then with the first one, he just knocked it out of the park. La Piconada, it's a Maturana wine. It was just so good. We liked it so much, we considered getting it again the next night when we went to go back and visit. But we decided to get a different recommendation. It was good, But it just, I don't know if anything could have lived up to that, to the La Piconada. So if you're in Barcelona, I would highly suggest, please definitely try that out. Other things we did, we went to the aquarium. It's going to sit in the heart of the marina. So if you're up north, you can get to this by taking the Barcelona bus Turístic and walking over about 5 minutes from that bus stop, which is a nice little walk. The aquarium is nicely kept and has many different types of sea life. I think the biggest feature here is this underwater tunnel that you can see right next to me. It's just going to give you a close-up look at many different types of fish, rays, eels. They even have sharks, ton of sharks swimming in there that you can see. It's a pretty large underwater area to explore. So hard to describe it, but you enter it and you walk down, think it's done, and then it opens up and then it has another area to go back and around. So it's a pretty neat little spot. Within the aquarium, my personal favorite and coolest part was there was an octopus in one of these tanks, and we got to see it change color. You can see it right here, but that was pretty neat, seeing that change right in front of us. Pretty cool. Something else to mention as first thing to do, the Recente Modernista de St. Paul. It's a former hospital in Barcelona. Surprising to learn is that this was a functioning hospital until 2009, which just, doesn't seem like too long ago. Many of the things to do and see in Barcelona, there's an admission fee, like many of the places that we visited. Here, there are a number of buildings within the grounds to tour. Not all the buildings are open to see inside. The ones that are, they have a heavy mix of history of the property. There's going to be art, interactive exhibits. There's even one that still shows what it would have looked like as if it was used. You can see beds, and like a third of it was still set up in that room. For me, the most interesting part might have been the stairs. So up in the middle of this property, there's stairs that you can take down underneath, and it's got these tunnels, and they connect to each other buildings. And I found out they were used to help patients and staff move about the property. So overall, this, it's a very gorgeous property, and it's very well maintained. On one of the days, we went to Poble Espanyol. It's along the hop-on and hop-off bus route. There's a stop right outside across the street. Here, again, there's an admission fee to get inside. And then when we went, I think it was earlier in the morning, so it wasn't too busy. But right as soon as you enter to your left, there's going to be a wall of colorful umbrellas that line the skyline between the two walls. This is probably going to be the main reason for for checking this out. You can see that it's pretty beautiful. It's a good photo and video location. For others, it's also going to be the spot to go check out the contemporary art museum that they have. It's going to include works from many like Dali, Miro, and Picasso. There's a lot of art pieces here spread out on a couple different floors, and you could spend a decent amount of time in there. Pablo Picasso has his own section, and I'll tell you, it's pretty interesting. I'll post one of his pieces here, but he had some questionable pieces like the one I'm talking about here. And yeah, it was just interesting to see the type of things that he did. And then, of course, before we left, I had to get a video of a selfie walking under the umbrellas. No comment on how many times I walked through to actually get the right shot. All right, the timeout market that I said I'd get back to. This place was pretty awesome. You might be wondering, what the hell is the timeout market? You can kind of think of it like a large food court. It's down near the marina. It's right past the aquarium. Each food vendor has the same size area, and you can walk around and see what each one has to offer. There was many of them that have samples. They're not edible, but you can get an idea of what that plate's going to look like if you decide to order it. And just some of the ideas there that they have for food are sushi, burgers, tacos, Italian, or just some of the options of them. I don't know the exact number, but I think there are about 12 or so that you can order from, and then you just order from them and go sit down anywhere that you like. There were also maybe 2 traditional sit-down table service restaurants. I don't recall what they offered there. We were more looking for the optionality from ordering from many different places. The nice thing too is there's also a couple bars with wine and beer that you can also have and order. And if you're staying at the hotel, check to see if they have any in the lobby, any of the flyers and things for things to do, and snag one of these free little flyers and it gets you a free glass of wine at the bar there. So that's pretty cool. We took advantage of that. We tried the tacos and the pizza. They were okay. But I think at least my personal favorite was the monster sushi, the location that they have there. But yeah, if you're with some people and, maybe you're on a disagreement or you want to, try a variety of things as far as what to eat, maybe considering doing the timeout market, and then everyone has some several options to choose from. I think the most disappointing part of this trip was not knowing about Sagrada Familia ahead of time before we got there. It's a basilica that is currently being constructed. It started in 1882, so it's surprising that the construction is still going on. It's as far as I know, it's supposed to be completed in maybe the next couple of years. It stands out for its massive size and detail throughout the structure. The reason why it was disappointing is you need to purchase tickets for this. And because we didn't do anything planning prior, we couldn't find any in the couple days we had left after we first saw it on the first day. I wish we could have gotten inside to see that in person, because after we, saw it outside and we Googled it and we looked at some of those images, and it just looks very impressive inside. So I'd still suggest, even if you can or don't want to go in, I'd recommend at least taking a look at this in person from the outside. It's a very unique piece of architecture. You're going to be able to see it from a lot of parts of Barcelona. The area around this is very busy. Something I saw later is that there are a number of rooftop spots for some really good photos in the area. So maybe if you're not going in, or even if you're doing that, maybe hunt down some of those locations. The bus touristic it's going to stop right in front of Sagrada Familia. So you don't have to get off to see it, but you're probably going to want to do so when you see it in person. So Barcelona is a big city, and you might be wondering what got us around to all these locations. That's the Barcelona bus touristic. It's a hop-on, hop-off bus. And the thing with this one is there's two different lines. One runs the north part of town, and then the other runs in the southern part of town. There's going to be a few stops that are either right next to each other or on the other side of the street. And that's going to allow you just to, if you decide, hey, I want to go to the other line, check out the other spots, it's just very easy to switch bus lines and get to those different spots. When you purchase your tickets, you'll get a map. It's going to show you two routes and the stops they make, usually by an attraction that's going to be worth seeing. This is nice because they also provide headphones and the ability to choose from a number of languages. As the bus drives around, it's going to give commentary about parts of the city or the specific attractions you're going to be near. Something I want to note, unlike Italy, where they made sure to have public bathrooms easily accessible, especially places where like the excursions, Barcelona doesn't make it a point to have many public bathrooms, at least from the areas that I was in and viewing. So make sure, for example, if you're at a restaurant or somewhere that has access to a bathroom, that after you're done with your meal or whatever you're doing, just regardless if you really have to go or not, just make sure you do. There was a time I had to go, and we asked someone who worked for the bus as we were waiting, because they sometimes have some reps at some of the bus stops, and he just pointed out that there weren't many, and he said maybe try and find a place where I could purchase something. So we went over to a little cafe, bought a few little items, some water, and I was able to use the bathroom that way. Barcelona was one of my favorite locations during our 2-week trip to Italy, France, and Spain. The city is mostly wide and open. It has the opportunity to walk everywhere as well. The food and wine were amazing. There's just a ton of things to do and see, even though there's going to be a lot of people there. With how wide the streets and sidewalks are, it doesn't make it feel too crowded and too packed as it did like it did in some of the spots in Italy and France. So if you're thinking about Barcelona, I tell you, absolutely, definitely go do it and definitely spend at least a few days there. And make some plans ahead of time too, like the Sagrada Família, and buy those tickets. So that's going to wrap this up. This was a little lengthier one, but we spent a few extra days in Barcelona, so I had a lot more to talk about and mention for you guys. Hope you're enjoying it, and continue to comment and leave your thoughts in the comment section. and we'll see you for the next one. Bye.